take us away.
This week on Cycling Together, we are discussing what to look for when buying a pre-owned or used bike, our women's ride series, and when to replace your helmet, which is an interesting one. And Kristin has questions inspired by a past reel, of which
I do.
I know nothing about. So this will be a blind questions for me. So here
My
we go.
favorite.
Let's get rolling.
This is Kristin.
And I'm Steve, and you are listening to Cycling Together, a podcast about bikes, riding, and riding together.
Before we get to pre-owned bikes,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk about a podcast that I've been listening to. So as we've done this podcast, I have found more cycling podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
and generally they're pretty industry related.
Yeah.
Like they're fine, but kind of deep in the weeds for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I found one this week from the Women's Mountain Bike Network that, first of all, didn't even know that existed.
Okay.
But interestingly, they were talking about bike fitting. So we had just done our show, and then across my table, across my feed, comes this episode with a Dr. Jessie Dupler. She's a doctor of physical therapy, a cyclist, and a bike fit specialist, and founder of Chain Reaction Physical Therapy. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole show other than to say you should go listen to it, because they talked a lot about fitting mountain bikes and women, which was just very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I wanted to talk about is they talked about women-specific saddles and whether they too were baloney.
Oh.
And, you know, it was an interesting conversation. I'm one who believes in a women-specific saddle.
Mm-hmm.
But as they were talking about it, they were saying, like, one of them has wider sit bones than their wife does. And again, I think it just came down to maybe they're not women-specific saddles. Maybe they're just different saddles.
Yeah.
Right? And is it a problem to call something women-specific when it turns out it would be the right saddle for you?
We know that men, in many cases, have preferred the so-called women-specific saddle. They found it more comfortable.
Right.
So
you do find that people at the shop have picked a women's saddle, even if...
no. Well, I've seen it happen. It is a little harder for men to say, oh, there's no way that's right for me if it's a women's
saddle. This is what I'm saying. So this was the point of the conversation was, do we need women specific saddles, or is that again just a level of marketing and that we just need more saddles that work for more people and maybe get away from the label women specific, because you might have someone who has narrower sit bones.
I think we do need to get away from that. You look at the surface of a saddle, and a lot of times you'll either have a flatter across the back or more rounded. You have the open channel in the middle, and then you have the overall width. And from there, you know, there's not a lot of differences in many regards. So really, I think that saddles should be getting away from the gender and going to width. The cutout, maybe the cutout width as well. You could even specify that.
Yep.
And then I guess maybe the overall back shape, you know, or something. But,
it was a good episode. I think it was called something like "Why Are Mountain Bikers Always in Pain?" And like maybe we've accepted a level of pain. We talked about this. Like, do we as riders accept a certain level of pain that we don't need to accept, that we just think of as normal? And so it was a great conversation. It was a great podcast. I will put it in the show notes. All right, we're going to talk about used bikes or pre-owned.
Mm-hmm.
Did have that one. I can't think of his name. Larry. He's a member of the National Bicycle Dealers Association. He has a bike shop down south, and he always says he's got a thriving used bike business out of his shop, and he says, everybody rides a used bike.
Everybody rides a used bike.
The minute you leave my parking lot with your brand new bike, it's a used bike.
Yep.
Which I think is spectacular.
It is. It's a great way to say it. Every rider is riding a used bike.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we want to talk about used bikes in part because it's a pretty common thing. I actually heard someone on an NBDA call recently ask the rest of us, what do you do about people who come in with this quote unquote great bike they found, bought a used bike? How do you break it to them that it's going to take a lot of money to rehab.
Right.
And so that's one of the things we want to address today. We're talking about pre-owned bikes, like how to find them, what to look for them. So where would you like to start with this conversation?
Well, we can break this down as a type of bike, right?
I think we have to.
So between the road and the mountain, we can loop gravel into the road, but gravel is quite new.
Yes.
And we're just going to talk about that a little bit, but we're going to get into, unfortunately, the situations that I see and those type of issues where people come in.
Right.
And what to look for when you're buying a used bike and what to kind of know and realize.
Right. Yes.
So it is, unless you are very knowledgeable about bicycles and their history, about the parts, what goes wrong, what wears, and so forth, then it is difficult to buy a used bike and kind of know what you're getting.
Let's start with
road bikes.
Road bikes.
All right. So with road bikes and looking at used road bikes, one thing to know is that there was a big bike boom in the 70s, a huge bike boom. Millions and millions of people bought.
I played Breaking Away.
Yeah. Right. And the Breaking Away was in the 70s, right? Yep. That came out of that whole bike boom. And you still see a lot of those original 70s road bikes for sale. And I still have people who say have a charity event to do and they don't have a road bike and they go out and buy a used one real cheap and they bring me in this 70s road bike. That is something that I just, it breaks my heart. Because
it breaks your heart.
It does. The comfort level, the fitment, the gear range, the braking, everything on it is just so far and away not good anymore.
It's no fun.
It's no fun anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that? So it's not that it's no fun. They're not very comfortable.
They're not very comfortable. The saddles are horrible on them.
Okay.
The handlebars are, they don't have hoods like they do nowadays, rubber hoods on the brake levers, right? Those brake levers were just bare aluminum.
It's just smooth.
And they're not meant to put your hands on. You're meant to put your hands on the drops or on the tops of the bars where they'll also have that secondary braking lever system.
My mom had a bike like that. Okay, got it.
So the gear ranges are very narrow. They're not great for climbing hills without grinding real hard.
Yes.
And the brakes are lousy. So, and a lot of them will have steel rims in some cases, and steel rims with any moisture, and you basically have no brakes whatsoever. So these are just stay away from 70s bikes. Like they were modeled after racing road bikes of the time. Right, because that's what we knew. You had sort of the sort of the cruiser 3-speed type of bike.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Or you had this style, and that was it.
The Tour de France.
Nobody was,
aluminum.
But they were cheap versions of those professional racing road bikes.
Did these have the shifters on the down tube?
So they would either be on the down tube or they would be up at the stem. But they were the big levers up at the stem or whatnot. And quite frankly, that style bike actually kept going on into the 80s with department store bikes.
Oh, okay.
I had one from Sears in the sort of early mid 80s. Yeah.
Okay.
that was basically no different than a 70s road bike.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's 70s.
And so then we get to sort of your more modern bike. Let's just say, well, we're going to kind of loop 80s into 70s a little bit there. All right. So
there's some overlap, right? Like
there
I'm
is some
trying to
overlap.
think. I had a road bike at a 10-speed.
Yeah.
Right?
And when you say 10-speed, it's because you were multiplying the 2 chain rings up front with the 5 cogs in the back to get 10-speed.
But I swear I was not. I would on that bike. I don't remember that I was shifted. I think it had hoods. Would that have happened in the late 80s?
That would have where you were shifting up on the brake levers? No, probably not, because that wouldn't have happened to the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
So, yes. So I would
avoid 70s and 80s bikes if you can.
If you can, yes.
Okay.
And the reason is because especially if you're looking at the low price points, very likely somebody selling one of these for 50, 100, $150. You could spend 100, 150, 200 and get a decade newer model with much more convenient features.
Okay.
So that's really one of the reasons. So then we have Shimano's STI levers. Now this is where you have the brake levers with the shifters built into the brakes and the rubber hoods, and that's where you're actually putting your hands a lot of the time.
Yep.
So originally on road bikes, the design of that is where those levers were on the downslope of the handlebar. And those were also sort of uncomfortable compared to current bikes from the past, say, 20 years, where the hoods are more at a even shelf with the top of the bar, let's say.
Okay.
Right? And it's just more comfortable for your hands to rest up there. But those older STI levers in particular wear out. So that is a big thing to look for. If you're looking for at a used road bike, click through all the through all the gears.
Yep.
Make sure each click is distinct. It's not soft. It's not vague. Each click is about the same level of precision as the next one.
Yep.
And then it shifts through every single gear.
I was gonna say, can we step this back? I wanna step it back before you get into individual components.
Yeah.
So I may make you say that again, but I'm looking at a bike from the 90s.
Yes.
Okay. Assuming it fits me right.
Mm-hmm.
What are the primary parts of the bike that I am most concerned about looking at it?
Okay. Yeah. So look at the frame and make
Yes.
sure that you don't see, if it's a steel frame, make sure you don't really see any rust.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's aluminum frame, then I would say really sort of inspect all of the welds and the joints. Just look for anything that might be cracking.
Okay.
Aluminum does fatigue. It can crack. I don't see it that much. So it's a very low risk, but it's not a zero risk.
Yeah.
And then from the frame, look at the wheels, spin them, see if they're true. If there's a tiny bit of wobble, that can be easily fixed.
True
means straight. Means that it's not sort of wobbling left, right.
Yes.
Maybe touching as it wobbles, touching the brake pad.
Run over by a
A
car.
little bit of wobble, though, can be trued out. If there's a very distinct sort of a wiggle to it in a very sort of narrow space on the rim, that usually is a bent rim and often can't be trued out.
Okay.
Look at the tires, sort of see if the rubber feels grippy, that you're looking to see if there's any sort of dry rotting, any cracking.
Mm-hmm.
If there is, it might not. You could replace the tires. So if the rest of the bike looks great, and just like the tires, you can just put that in your list of things that you're gonna have to spend money on. And then the drivetrain. So the drivetrain's the biggest thing. So people will buy a used bike, bring it in, and the train is the biggest item. That's like, sorry, but this is like your chain is stretched, and your chain is really stretched, and the cassette is worn, and your chain rings are now
right.
worn
So when you're
out.
saying the chain is really stretched and it was ridden for a long time while it was stretched, so it actually changed the profile of the teeth in the cassette or the crank.
Yep.
And so even just replacing
you'd have to
the chain,
you have to now replace the cassette.
The full
and,
cassette.
Yeah, and one or two of the chain rings as well.
Okay.
If the chain is just a little stretch, and I get this often, the chain is just a little stretch, it needs to be replaced, but I change the chain, I go out and test it under load, everything's fine, you're good to go. Many, many times it's just the chain needs replacing, the rest of the parts are fine.
Okay.
But if you don't check the chain, you don't know how worn it is, you might have to be prepared for that big expense.
Right. And then you mentioned what got me here, the shifting, like the idea that you should test the shifting.
Test the shifting. Yeah, especially with road bikes, because the road bike shifters are one of the most expensive parts. They are a little less expensive with rim brakes, and more if it's a more current bike, say 2014, 2015 is where disc brakes came on road bikes really very commonly, then those are more expensive to replace.
Okay.
Those are also, since they're newer, less likely to be worn out, though.
Right. But this is where I think it's really where you really realize as a potential buyer that you don't know what you don't know, right? Because looking at the list, I'm going to cheat a little bit, right? You mentioned the STI levers, but there are other levers we should or drivetrain things we should be looking out for that I wouldn't.
No, so Shimano 10-speed is one of the things, and when we say 10-speed here, we mean 10 cogs in the back.
Okay.
Shimano's drivetrains with 10 cogs in the back on the cassette, like massive, years and years and years of these models, and across all of their ranges. So across their popular ranges, their 105 group set, the Ultegra group set, and the Dura Ace group set. And in some cases, those are really getting old now, and those shifters are worn out, not fully operating anymore, and they need to be replaced. So you might be looking at a bike with one of these group sets, and the thing is, there's no more replacement shifters for Shimano 10-speed. And so you have to buy a used set. Now you're going to have to probably buy a used set off of eBay or whatnot. And even
hopefully
the person says
new.
Exactly. The person might say it works, but it might be they have all the clicks, but half the clicks are super vague.
Okay.
Right? Because that's also what can happen.
A vague click.
So I think now we're getting to this point in 2026 where I would just not buy a used bike with Shimano 10-speed.
I'm going to ask a potentially dumb question.
Yeah.
How do I know when I'm looking at a bike if they are the Shimano STI levers or the...
Oh, so...
I mean, Shimano 10-speed, I can figure it out. It says Shimano in the front. It's got 10 things in the back.
Yeah, 10
right?
cogs in the back.
Yep. I can get that.
Yep.
But, like, how do I know
what
I'm looking at?
Shimano STI levers just is the generic name for the brake levers that'll have the shifting built in.
Okay.
Right? And just all of them. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
matter what model,
okay,
what speed. Okay.
Yes.
So, but those levers are matched to the number of cogs you have in the back cassette.
Okay.
Right? So if you have 8 in the back, you need 8-speed shift levers. If you have 9 in the back, you need 9-speed levers. Shimano makes replacement 8 and 9-speed stuff. So if that is replaceable right now, no problem. 10-speed is not, because what they did with the 10-speed group set, which is called Tiagra, is they changed the pull ratio of how it pulls the cable, so it will not work with older 10-speed stuff anymore.
Well, that's not
even though it clicks the right amount of times, it's not pulling the derailleur properly the right amount of times.
Got it.
So if you had a 10-speed setup and you had bad shifters, you'd either have to get used 10-speed shifters.
Yep.
Right? A lot of times you're only replacing the one side. Or you're going to have to, say, get the Tiagra lever, but then the new Tiagra derailleur as well, in order to match that shifter.
Got it.
But your cassette, if it was still good, would work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
All right, what else?
What else?
You don't see Campagnolo very much anymore.
Campagnolo.
And so
why don't we see it much anymore? I have to ask.
Well, because Campagnolo doesn't come on new bikes, and so therefore the only bikes you're going to see with it are something somebody upgraded or custom. Now there was a time in the 90s, early 2000s where it was coming on a few bikes. So it's out there on used bikes, but you just don't see it that much anymore.
You fancy if you have that.
So, right.
Okay. What about SRAM?
So SRAM was the last to the road group game.
Okay.
Oh, I'd have to really pick my brain to remember when their shifters came out.
Okay.
Right, and they first introduced their road groups. It has probably been 20 years now.
Are they a newer company, SRAM, compared to?
They are. So
Shimano
SRAM is. Oh, this is a really side quest here. SRAM is basically grip shift. If anybody remembers grip shift, it was a twisting shifter system.
Remember it? We put it on Sophie's bike.
Yeah, and it started actually with like tri bikes on the end of the bars, and then moved to mountain bikes, and that really is sort of the origin of SRAM. And then SRAM is a company by acquisition. So they just sort of acquired more and more companies that made more different parts. And all of a sudden they formed a component group company. So like they bought Sox chains, right? Still made in the Portugal factory where socks were made. Truvative crank sets. They bought Rock Shocks and they bought a lot of stuff.
Growth through acquisition.
Yes, growth through acquisition. Right. SRAM shifters, they can have issues, but to be honest, I really don't see too many issues with older SRAM shifters. I haven't really seen a lot of, say, failures, if you will. They have failures in their shifters.
I feel like we're going to talk about that later.
Right, but I don't really get shifters in. They're like, oh, these shifters are gone. Like, there's nothing can be done.
Okay, what else?
So then as you're looking at a used road bike, you want to take into account the gear range. So the older the bike, the less the gear range was, right? In terms of its hardest gear to its easiest gear.
Okay.
All right? Doesn't matter how many speeds it has. It is basically, will it be good enough for the climbing that you need to do is really what it comes down to. Is the easiest gear easy enough?
I will say I'm often struck when a older bike comes to the or when I visit the shop and there's an older bike there by how small everything is.
Yep.
Right? Like the rear cassette is so small.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be 11 through 23 and 11 through 28. 11 through 28 was like the biggest. That was it. That's as big as it got. And it's as big as the derailleur could handle. That's another thing. So, as bikes went on to the current day, the climbing gears, the easiest gear on these bikes, has gotten way easier.
Yes, it has.
So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at a used road bike. And if it doesn't have as easy of a gear as you need, what it's going to take to upgrade it, we'll say.
When you say derailleur can't accommodate, what does that mean?
It means that the derailleurs on bikes had a maximum cog that they could run with.
Okay.
All right. And like there was and a lot of these older road bikes, the maximum cog they could accommodate was 25 or 28 teeth.
Okay.
And so you can't, some people will come in and they'll say, well, can't you just put on that 1136 cassette? No.
Meaning 36
More
teeth.
than 36 is on your largest cog in the back. That would be an easier gear, but the derailleur can't shift to it. It would interfere, right, with those teeth. It just can't get up there.
Okay.
And so, yes, you can a lot of times get easier gears in that bike, but now you're talking about also changing the rear derailleur. And do they make an appropriate rear derailleur that can handle those larger cogs for the number of speeds that your shifters are?
And the gearing is so important. I go to ride with people and I'm strong. I'm a good climber, but I also have a monster climbing gear on my gravel bike.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I find it hard, when I'm riding with someone else who will be like, I'm just not that good. I'm not as good as you on the hills. And I'm like, yes, I'm good on the hills, but I also have a dinner plate back there. Like, I don't think people always understand the role of gearing in getting up hills.
Right.
Right? At all.
Yeah.
So again, you just looking, but they are tiny on some of these older bikes.
Yeah. Yep. And then you have doubles and triples. So that means 2 chain rings on the crank or 3 chain rings. Triples have gone away. They really sort of don't exist anymore except in niche touring situations.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at an older bike and you really need that climbing because you live in a mountainous area, a very hilly area, then that's when you might want to look to a triple bike. But otherwise, I would try to stay away from triples at this point. The next thing is, I guess, tire fitment. So,
fitment.
Yeah, tire. Yeah,
Okay.
the fitment.
Great.
Right? No,
I got it. Tire fitment.
Yeah. So what the maximum tire size that the bike can accommodate?
Got
Because
it.
all road bikes had 700, which is the wheel diameter, by 23 millimeter wide. Okay, 23 was just the standard. That's what road bikes came with forever, in a way.
So skinny.
Skinny.
And
then people started to put 25 millimeters on their bike because that would fit.
Okay.
I'm like, this is better. And then a few people started to put 28 millimeter, and it was like, this is way more comfortable. This is better. And then basically what happened is then disc brakes. And that was usually the maximum.
They were limited by the...
Well, you're limited by the brake bridge. So
Yes.
what can fit under the brake, what can fit under the fork crown, and then what can fit in between, say, the chainstays on the frame.
Yes.
And like there's certainly like especially old Italian frames could only fit 23 millimeter.
Yeah.
And early carbon frames could only fit 23 millimeters sometimes.
Okay.
So you have to, and then occasionally you could squeeze 25s. That's something to really look for. If you're looking at an older bike with rim brakes, the maximum you're probably going to fit is 28 millimeter, and you want to make sure that you can fit that 28 millimeter.
Because that is going to be, it's the other thing about those skinny ones, when we were, even like our first road bikes together, my first road bikes, you had plenty. You were pumping those up to
120 PSI.
Yeah, so they were hard. They were skinny.
Yep.
And so that's when you're talking about when somebody brings one of these bikes in, you're like, this is not going to be a very comfortable ride for you.
Yeah.
Not only is the geometry weird, but
so sometimes, yes, I'll get somebody getting back into road riding, or again, bought a used road bike because they want to get into it. And it's an aluminum frame, which in the 80s, 90s rode quite harsh. And it's got, 23 millimeter tires on 16 millimeter internal width rims. And I'm geeking a little bit on that, but
now you're geeking.
Yeah, that you actually have to inflate those fairly high so you don't pinch flat on all of our potholes. And they ride harsh.
Yeah. Okay. So try to get a bike that can accommodate even.
Yeah, and then once we got, so what disc brakes really did, the braking, honestly, on a lot of rim brake road bikes is excellent. It is all the braking you need. I would never tell anybody that you need a disc brake road bike when they're looking for used bikes. There are phenomenal rim braked road bikes out there used. And to me, the biggest downside or the changes you want to make are the gear range, and the maximum tire you can fit into that frame.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. But what disc brakes let us do is have...
Yes. So it got rid of that caliper brake. It opened up the frame design, and we got big tires. Okay. Those are the big ticket items to look for in your used road bikes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because other stuff, like you mentioned the saddles were uncomfortable.
Oh, from the 70s. They were way better in the 2000s.
Yeah.
But again, that always expect you may have to change the saddle on any used road bike.
Right.
It's just, saddles also wear out.
Yes.
The padding breaks down as well. So even a saddle that might have worked for you new doesn't work for you after had been used for 15 years.
Right. Or a saddle that was broken in by somebody else's bum.
Exactly. You can also leave indentations of where their sit bones were. Yep.
Yeah. So that's, and again, from the cost of things, I don't think a saddle is the highest cost upgrade. How do you know how much you should spend on a bike?
You can check bicyclebluebook.com.
Okay.
And you can get that's a good value guide area.
Yeah.
And you can kind of look on eBay at what you can also click on sold items, so you can also see what things have actually sold for, not what people are trying to sell them for.
Important, because sometimes you'll be like, oh, there's all these things on eBay that are selling for, and I'll usually say, yes, but did they sell? I don't care what people are asking for it. I just want to know what it's going for.
Yeah. If we talk about the more expensive used road bike, so somebody's looking at more high-end stuff. Chains are usually going to be worn out.
Yep.
If a chain is very worn out, though, the cassette might be worn out. The chain rings might be worn out. Chain rings can be a really big thing because with Shimano, the large chainring on many of the cranks is very expensive.
Really?
And as I just posted on Instagram this past week, you can't get them sometimes anymore.
Right.
So a Shimano Ultegra 6800 crankset. I had 2 customers within a week who had their 50-tooth chain rings on those were both completely worn out. New chains were put on and they would just skip and pop, and you could just visually even see they were just gone. Well, there is no more 50-tooth 6800 chainring anymore. Shimano. What Shimano does is they stop producing those parts.
Yeah.
They have a certain amount in stock. As their stock reduces, the price goes up and up and up to incentivize people to upgrade or buy a new part, and then they're all gone. So they actually needed whole new cranksets in order to get that fixed.
How much does that cost?
Well, there's many ways you can go.
Okay.
Right? So Shimano does actually make a few non-series cranks. One which actually costs less than the chainring would have cost them.
Oh, okay.
Right? So
awesome.
And if they bought the Ultegra one, then 411 speed, then it would have, that actually was about double the cost of the one I put on for them. But
okay.
yeah.
All right. So that's road bikes.
Yeah, let's move on to mountain bikes.
Let's move on to mountain bikes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mountain bikes came about in the 80s.
Yes.
All right. I just did service on an 80s mountain bike, an 89 mountain bike this past week.
Yeah.
The guy had owned it since new.
Okay.
It's been in his garage. He wanted to have his son use it.
Yes.
It really only needed sort of a base tune-up, and it was rolling fine. Not the greatest bike to ride on the trails anymore, but I don't know, maybe he was just using it for rail trails and so forth.
Okay.
But anyway, that's fine. But stay away from any 80s mountain bikes. Let's just put that right out. Okay. Then let's talk about 90s bikes.
Yes.
Stay away from 90s bikes as well. And
hey, that's when I started.
And I'm going to talk about a bike I just got in. So a guy bought himself and his wife 2 used bikes. Okay. So, and I think they were mainly for just casual riding, rail trails, maybe around the neighborhood, that kind of thing.
Okay.
He got his wife a hybrid bike that was actually cool, like that perfect. It was perfect, right, for her in terms of what they wanted to use it for. He got himself a 90s Gary Fisher mountain bike.
Okay.
And so 26-inch, 560 millimeter wide, super narrow bars, cantilever brakes, and a very, very aggressive position on this thing.
Define aggressive position.
Well, so even though the frame technically fit him,
yes,
right, very, very high to bar, the bars were really far below the saddle height.
Got it.
And of course the stems back in the 90s were 130, 140, 150 millimeters long. They were massive. Okay. It was just it was completely different geometry. And I still own my 90s mountain bike. And
yes,
it is not something I would want to ride on the trails anymore. No, but I, at the time, loved racing that thing.
Yeah.
I loved mountain biking
Kona,
on that thing.
Right?
But they're just so much more comfortable and better now that stay away from a 90s bike.
Okay.
That leads us into the 20s.
Yes.
Right?
The aughts.
The aughts. Yes, the aughts and the teens. Right. So the things to look for on a used bike are going to be the drivetrain. It's going to be similar to the road bikes.
Okay.
Worn out chains, worn out cassettes, worn out chainring teeth.
Yes.
If you're looking for real value in a used mountain bike, then I think sort of a sweet spot that you might be able to look for would be, don't get a 26-inch wheel bike. All
okay.
right. So 27.5 wheel. All right. Even though those are sort of outdated now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If your budget's super, super tight, then there's some real bargains on 27.5 because people wanted 29 most of the day.
Yep.
Time. So like a 27.5 wheel bike with maybe like a 2x drivetrain that you will upgrade to 1x, right? You could probably, it could be a really, really fun bike that you can get very, very cheap.
Okay.
But you're going to have to put a little bit of money into it. So just keep that in mind. The more you can do yourself, I should say, the better.
Are mountain bikes easier to upgrade than road bikes? Like, are there some just components that are easier than road bikes? I don't know if that question makes any sense.
Yeah, that gets too much in the weeds of what you're upgrading.
Okay.
Yeah. But in general, the shifters on mountain bikes are way less expensive than road bikes.
Oh, okay.
So that makes a huge difference.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
The second thing, but the other thing to look for in a mountain bike is older hydraulic disc brakes. I wouldn't get cable disc brakes. I would definitely get hydraulic. But at the same time, older hydraulic disc brakes can have a lot of issues.
Okay.
And those can be really pricey for mountain bikes. So, like original Avid brakes, which SRAM acquired. That's how they got their disc brakes.
Okay. Good job, SRAM.
Yep. So those can be just hot garbage. Yeah, if they're working at all.
Okay.
Older Maguras, even older Shimanos can be an issue. Although if you were to say what old disc brake brand is going to be probably the still working and the most reliable, I would say Shimano.
So this is another one where when you are test riding a mountain bike, you want to, again, the shifting should shift definitively.
Correct. Yes.
The braking should brake without necessarily having to pull all the way to the handles, or it being really plump.
Plump. Exactly. That's what happens with the dot fluid brakes.
Yes.
Is they absorb water, and so basically there's no pull play in that there should be in the brake levers, and they're basically almost on right from the start. And so I would be careful about those because a lot of the seals might have swelled in those old brakes.
Okay. And what about shocks?
Oh, yeah, shocks. Right. So.
Oh, yeah, shocks. They're mountain bikes.
That's a great one. You're looking, so on the shocks, you're looking for any sort of wear marks on the stanchions and so forth. So as that would indicate that dirt has gotten on the seals, and as both rear shock or the front forks, and as it's compressing, it's basically wearing and etching into those.
Yes.
And you want to stay away from anything that has any etch marks on it.
Okay.
Yep. And you want to make sure that it's holding air. Right, so it compresses and rebounds.
Yep.
You want to play with the rebound knobs, and you want to make it go all the way slow, and then compress it and see if it slowly comes back up like it should, and then go all the way to fast and see if that changed it.
Okay.
So if those things work, it's holding air, and the rebound controls change the actual rebound, then most likely you might want to plan for a service of those, but they're probably just the normal service and they'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But the etching, the scratches on the side of the stanchions, or any kind of like fluid coming out.
So fluid coming out could just mean you need new seals.
Okay.
And so that can be difficult. If it's holding air, but you see oil all over them, and usually the oil attracts dirt.
Okay.
Then they definitely need serviced, but then they could be just fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say it is harder to know that you're getting a decent mountain bike than it is a road bike.
Oh.
Because of all the things that can go wrong in a mountain bike like that, like the suspension, like the hydraulic disc brakes, and the drivetrains see more dirt and grime, so they tend to wear out faster.
Yep.
So it is definitely very much buyer beware with a used mountain bike.
Is it also... Okay, so here's my present to you.
Yes. Okay.
I went on to... We have a Facebook group called New England Bike Classifieds.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on and said, mountain bike.
Yeah. Uh-oh, what do you have?
I have listings.
You have listings.
And one of the things I want to talk about is it a mountain bike? Or is it a mountain bike style bike? Or is it a mountain bike? Because we've had people come to the shop, say, for our group rides or who are like, I want to take this out to the trails. And you're like, well, it is technically called a mountain bike, or it was a mountain bike back in the day.
Yes. We do like saying that there are mountain bike shaped bikes.
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a couple of listings to look at, and you're going to tell me what someone might, if this looks like a potential to be a good mountain bike.
Okay.
Or if you would immediately be like, absolutely not. Don't even think about it for the trails. Because again, you can have a mountain bike style bike that would be great just to ride on the rail trail.
On the rail trail, yeah.
Right, it would do a great job. All right, so this one reads, great Trek mountain bike for man or big kid, ! Unsure of model, stored inside, minimally used, tires still have stubbles on.
Ooh, stubbles.
Ergonomic grips, some accessories included. Great all-around bike. It's a Trek.
Okay.
It's a men's Trek mountain bike for $50.
For $50.
Does that look like a bike that someone should
Here we go, live on the pod. She's surprising me with listings that I have to.
If somebody were to say to you, Steve, would this be a good mountain bike for me to get started on our local trails?
Okay. So this is $50, huh?
$50.
All right. This is a great bike for the rail trail. I would not take this on mountain bike trails.
Next bike. Trek 900 mountain bike, size extra large, 22 inches from BB to top of seat tube. This is a rather unique model that was only made for 1 year in 1988.
Ooh.
The bike needs brakes and some new cables, only comes with a front shifter, has Shimano Dior XT hubs, Sugino crankset, Suntour rear derailleur, also includes a seat and post. That is not pictured. It is $100.
Okay. We say Sugino. At least I say Sugino, by the way.
Sugino.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I could be wrong. The reason somebody might want to buy this bike
is
because they are trying to put together their prized vintage bike that they're not really going to ride, but they want to just have it assembled, reassembled and so forth. And they need a particular vintage part off of it or that kind of thing.
It's a steel frame. Yep. It doesn't have a front or rear shock because of its age.
Right.
So again, probably, even though it is described as a mountain bike.
Here's the big thing is that it's Suntour shifting. Okay. Do not, this applies now to all bikes. Do not buy any used bike with a Suntour rear derailleur. And the reason is because Suntour derailleurs and shifters use their own cable pull ratio, and the freewheels on those actually had variable spacing. So you can't actually just replace, and they're often worn out, so you can't replace it with a Shimano one and have it work really properly. So this is just an absolutely no-go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And remember, I'm asking about if you're going to be in the mountain bike trails, because again,
that's not even good.
You wouldn't even that. Okay.
No.
All right. Cannondale F400 mountain bike in great condition, 100% fully functional, high quality, lightweight aluminum frame, smooth shifting, strong frame, reliable components make this a great bike for commuting, fitness, trails, or everyday riding. Some of the specs, it has a Shimano STX derailleur. The tire size is 20 by 2.1.
Cannondale's numbering hierarchy, the higher the number, the better the bike.
Okay.
F400 was the lowest they went.
Okay.
From my knowledge.
That seems like cheating to start at 400, but sure.
Yeah, it does, right? This would probably be okay for the rail trail. Now the thing about the drivetrain on this, so this is a Shimano 21 speed, and here we're going to multiply the two. So it's 3 chain rings up front, 7 in the back.
Yeah.
And Shimano STX. So Shimano STX rear derailleurs were like bulletproof. Those things last forever. That derailleur probably is still perfectly good now. And one of the great things about Shimano in this particular case is that their shifters and derailleurs in their 6, 7, and 8 speed range all use the same cable pull ratio, and they're all interchangeable, and you could very easily get, say, replacement shifters nowadays for this, if need be. Here's another real big tip. Many times we talked about on the road shifters that they get soft, or you try to shift them and they just don't do anything. They just sort of swipe and don't click. The same thing can happen on mountain bike shifters, especially if they're sitting for a while. If you just take a silicone spray or similar lubricant, WD-40 will work, and you stick the hose, the tube, into like any of the little seams or wherever you can find in the shifter, and just blast it in there. Just absolutely soak inside the shifter. Those shifters will come back to life. 95% of the time.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's one that, to my uneducated eye, I went, oh, maybe. So this is a Specialized hard rock mountain bike, 21 speed, small medium, front suspension fork. It doesn't say what it is. Shimano shifters and derailleurs, 27.5 tires.
They want $250.
Yes.
This is just a couple pictures, but a lot of times from the pictures you can tell if there's a lot of scratches and so forth on it. This actually looks very clean and with not really a lot of scratches, so I would say it probably wasn't used that much. Its suspension fork it's a Suntour spring operated one. Those are just okay for entry-level bikes, and it's 27.5-inch wheels. So I would say this would probably be a good bike to get, if it fits you, to get somebody going out on the trails.
Like not just the rail trail.
No, not just the rail trail.
So if somebody were to say to me, Kristin, I was looking at this bike for the women's bike series.
Right.
We would say that looks like it has potential.
It looks like it has potential. I can't really see the drivetrain on this, and they're not. All they're saying is Shimano shifters and derailleurs, and I can't really see what it has. But I would say, yeah. If you needed to get started mountain biking on trails at a low budget, this could work for you.
All right, I'm going to give you one last. This is a Live Enchant 26 mountain bike. Front suspension is an SR Suntour 63 millimeter suspension. It has Shimano grip twist shifters, 21 speed, 3 in the front, 7 in the back.
Yep.
Powerful V brakes. Bike was $500 new, and they are selling it for $260.
V brakes are also known as linear pull. V brake is Shimano's term for their brakes.
Oh, okay.
These are the kind that have these long arms, and then the cable comes across the top of them.
Yes, yeah.
That type of rim brake is superior to cantilever brakes.
Oh.
Now, it's an extra small, which is why it might be 26 inches. So
yes.
The larger versions of this bike might have had bigger wheels. So they say grip twist shifters, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't actually have those shifters based on these pictures. Right.
I guess that's a good point, that the person selling the bike could be as uninformed as the person buying the bike.
So this is also an entry level mountain bike, because it was only $500 new.
Yeah.
And so $260 to me for this bike is too much.
But it is a bike, if at a different price, could have the potential
Absolutely.
for, again, to hit
especially because it will fit somebody who's very short.
Which is really hard.
Yeah, which is very hard. Yep.
Should anything in these listings tip somebody off that the bike that's being sold is stolen?
Well, when you go to look at a bike, you always want to tip it upside down. All right.
Okay.
And you're looking for the serial number, which is often embossed into the bottom bracket area.
Okay.
Or it used to be sort of in the metal, but now a lot of times it's just a sticker. You're looking for a serial number, though.
Okay.
Right? So if it's been filed off, right, or just peeled away, you can't find a serial number under there, then I would probably not get it. Yeah, that's a big warning sign. And then just go by vibe. If it's the person's own bike and they can tell you about it, and you know if it's if it's the person's own bike, or maybe it's the mother and he's selling the son's bike, or
Yeah.
or a person selling their deceased father's bike or something like that. That happens.
Yeah.
You can kind of you can be aware of that.
Yeah.
If it's just some guy, you're
got a bike.
like, hey, let's meet in the plaza and I'm sell you this bike. That's the ones you got to be careful about.
Got it.
Yeah.
But is there anything else, like just high level, for anyone who's thinking that they want to get a pre-owned bike, that advice
You know
like
what?
to
Look
give them?
for I guess bikes that have been stored outside. Don't get a bike that's been stored outside.
Yeah.
And that's usually rusty chains. If there's a little bit of rust inside the heads of bolts, that's not necessarily mean that the bike was stored outside.
Yeah.
That just happens from humidity.
Yep.
But paint that's faded, rusty chains, other little sort of rusty bits. On rim brakes, the springs behind the calipers will rust, and that only happens if the bike's been stored outside.
Okay.
So that's another thing to look at. So I would stay away from that.
Okay.
I think you need to be aware that you could end up, in many cases, so if you're going to, say, get this used bike and then take it to the bike shop to get a tune-up, so to speak, you could end up spending a few $100s to get it back in shape. So keep that in mind if you don't really know what you're looking at. Yeah.
Right. Just be prepared.
Yeah.
You might be
And
disappointed.
so if you have that in mind when you're looking at a bike and the price of the bike, then you might say, this bike isn't worth it then.
Yes.
Right? Let's say you have a list of a few bikes you're interested in.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's important to reinforce that I don't think any bike shop likes to say to someone, "Oh, this bike that you bought is going to cost X amount to fix." Like no bike shop, every bike shop owner that we were on this conversation we had, they all were like, "Oh, we've all been in this situation where somebody brought in a bike and you can just see the disappointment." And I know it's tempting to think like, "Oh, well, the bike shop just wants to make money." The bike shop does not want to make that kind of money, or they don't want to have that conversation where someone gets mad because they feel like the bike shop is just trying to make money on
Correct.
it.
That's
more
that's
to the
right.
point.
Yeah.
Is, of course the bike shop wants to make money, and then really it is up to each person to decide what they want to invest in it, which I think is also hard for like you or other bike shop owners who might say, well, I wouldn't spend that much on it.
Right. But yes, there are situations where like, okay, they want to spend this much on it, then I will do it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, are we good with used bikes?
Yeah.
That actually brings us, speaking of things that wear out that need to be replaced, Cycling Weekly had a article recently about how often you should replace your helmet.
Okay.
And I thought that was a good chance for us to talk about how often you should replace your helmet, because it is
a safety issue.
Well, how
What?
It is a safety issue. How often should you replace your helmet?
I guess it's like around 3, 4, max 5 years.
Yes,
Yeah.
3 to 5 years, which I think surprises everyone.
Now, all helmets have a manufacturing date in them.
Yeah.
The thing is that many times you might buy your helmet that's 2 years after its manufacturing date, but it's been hopefully sitting on a shelf somewhere out of the sunlight.
Right.
Not getting used, obviously.
Yeah.
So the materials nowadays, in my opinion, are fine with that shelf life, and that you can start its life when you put it into service.
When you put it on.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I just think it surprises people. It's a couple of situations we see, right? Someone who's been wearing the same helmet for 20 years.
Yeah, we do see that.
And they come in and they're cracked on the foam inside has dried out to the point that it is cracking. The plastic on top might have slight cracks in it. The other one is they pass helmets down from one child to the next.
Oh,
So the helmet they bought for their first child is now on their third child, and it's had a rough go, even if it wasn't just 3 to 5 years,
right.
It's seen.
Well, the children
seen
probably,
some
without
things.
even the parents knowing, have whacked their head on the pavement a few times.
Yeah.
With that thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, it gets thrown into the back of your car. It gets exposed to the sun. I think it's, hard. Like right now, I'm coming up on 4 years on my mountain bike helmet, and they don't make mine anymore.
Right.
And so it's hard to find one that I like that fits my head quite the same way. But I guess I'd rather replace it before I need to.
The foam in a helmet is designed to crack and break, and that's part of the protection system. And so if it is starting to crack on its own from age, it is severely compromised for protecting your head.
Right. Yeah. But it's another one I think can feel a bit like a money grab, right? Oh, the shops are only saying 3 to 5 years because they want to sell you new helmets. And personally, I'd like to keep my helmet for 10 years. I love my helmet.
To be honest, I would love to see data. I would love to see testing data on taking different helmet models and then testing them every, say, 3 years and seeing what So that would be really interesting if Virginia Tech, who does helmet testing, got us the one of a same model helmet, or say took their top 10 rated helmets, and then held on to a bunch of new models, and then every 2 years, say, retested it, right? That old model. Well, no, see, because that's been sitting in a shelf. It's not being used.
You'd have to sit it in the sun.
Yeah,
you'd have to try to reproduce.
You'd have to ask riders to say, can you bring us that helmet that you've been using?
Bring me a helmet.
Yeah, for 3 years, and we want to retest it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to destroy it, but it'd be really interesting to know.
It would be interesting. I mean, it was funny. We were talking about this on Friday night, and one of the riders was like, I've never had to wait 5 years because I usually hit my head at some point. And I was like, I can safely say that I've, knock on wood, not had to do that. Okay, I have some questions. We did a video, one of our shows in the past. You talked about entry-level components, and that became a reel that continues to trigger a conversation weeks later, which has me asking some questions. People said, well, what about Shimano Cues?
Cues, yeah.
What is that?
Shimano Cues is Shimano's bright idea to replace a lot of different models with one model that they then split into multi-mini models under the Cues brand name and decided to just confuse everybody. So, I mean, they had a bunch of different product lineups with different names like Acera and Olivio. And that's all gone or going away, I should say, and replaced what's called Cues. But then they just expanded the different models under Cues, and you've got U4000 and U6000 and 9-speed and 10-speed and 11-speed.
4000 is the entry level.
It's honestly, this has been a little bit what should have been perhaps a good move by Shimano to simplify their lineup. Actually, has just confused it to the consumer. And we could go on and on about the differences and so forth, but Shimano Cues is actually a good group set. There are multiple different versions of it.
Yeah.
But it has definitely confused the public.
I don't think the bike industry has ever done a good job of naming things. Just gonna, levels or differences or, okay. What is Microshift?
Microshift. So that is another component brand, basically. You've always had sort of the big three. You've had Shimano, SRAM, and Campagnolo.
Yeah.
And then you have these other minor sort of players. Microshift has built up from the very bottom end, right? Up. So they're still very entry level.
Okay.
Microshift came about where people sort of noticed it during COVID, and a lot of the brands couldn't get parts, and so they turned to Microshift, and so a lot of the entry level mountain bikes, particular, like Specialized. I know for one used a lot of it. They just they had no other choice. They had to put Microshift on their bikes.
Okay.
It's not terrible, but it's not good either, is what I'm going to call it.
Are they still using Microshift?
Oh, yeah,
on
in
the
some
entry
cases.
levels?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
They
it's
didn't
still
go
out
back.
there. And Microshift is getting better, right?
Okay.
So as you would expect from a sort of an upcoming company in that regard. You know, as we talked about used bikes, I would try to not get a used mountain bike with Microshift.
Okay. And those were primarily
Look for the
from
ones with
pandemic.
look for the ones with Shimano.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and that was primary. It really was from the pandemic. So they are tending to use less of it, and they're going more to Cues.
Okay.
But yeah, I would try to stay away from Microshift.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I have except for some shop news, which is our 5th year of our women's mountain bike ride series starts next week.
Yay.
Next week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Oh, it is next week. Wow. Yes, I'm very excited. As I said, it's our 5th year. I have a really solid group of leaders who are will be riding with this week to, basically get them back on the trails, answer any of their questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm hoping we're going to have 3 groups going out each time. So what we'll call our welcome group, our more traditional group. And then I'm hoping this year to get an advanced group going. But
nice.
I can't believe it's our 5th year.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, just like this show did.
Yeah. So it is a great mountain bike riding group. So
They're
join
just
it
wonderful.
if you can.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Cycling Together with Kristin and Steve is a production of Steve the Bike Guy, an independent bicycle shop in Eastern Massachusetts, and Sundin Marketing, a full-service marketing communications agency.
If you like the show, please leave a review or share with a friend. For show notes, links, or to leave a comment, question, or topic suggestion, visit cyclingtogether.bike.
You can follow the shop on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Steve the Bike Guy, and we are now available as video on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Weird.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye. Can triples? I guess my only thing is nope, never mind. I got nothing. I'll cut it. I got nothing.